All right, we're going to give it just a moment here, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure we have a signal. All right, looks like we have a transmission. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, coming to you live from the busted up streets of Fullerton, California. And today is Thursday, April 20th, 2023. Coming to you in the name of reason in a world of lies. Coming to you with the truth that is woven into the very fabric of our existence that has been hidden from us since we were first released from our mother's womb by the deniers of Jesus Christ and the web of lies that they weave to ensnare everyone that they wish to control and destroy as a sacrifice to their father, the devil. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, PO Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834, on the web at thefullertoninformer.com, 5gdangers.com, vaxdangers.com, celltowerdangers.com, wifidangers.com, and many other .coms. And this broadcast today is about the Russian and Chinese attack on the United States. And I want to talk to you about this because you're going to hear about how China is going to invade the United States and how Russia is going to nuke the West Coast and all of these allegations, right? Ladies and gentlemen, the United States of America, boy, these roads are something else. By the way, I put in a call to the Public Works Department at the city of Fullerton. The city had dug up the street and replaced water mains and had these subcontractors button it back up. And the road is so rough and so bad, it's right by the college, that I saw this person fall down on a bicycle because of the road and almost get run over by a car. So I guess we'll see what happens. But on to a more important topic. Yes, Fullerton's run by criminals, okay? And even the people that, work in departments are a bunch of criminals because they're okay with what's going on. So what we've got is a lot of talk about a nuclear attack on New York, a nuclear attack on Los Angeles, a nuclear attack on our facilities that house our ICBMs and the NORAD installation, all this stuff, right? And they're talking about how China is preparing to invade the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, do you really believe nuclear weapons are real? Okay. I'm going to ask you that question, and I'm going to backdrop that statement and that question by the following. Do you really believe we're living on a spinning ball? Now, I don't mind telling you that recently, when I say they, I'm talking about the so-called scientific community, have come out and told everyone they're drip marketing this fact that they've discovered a massive ocean under the oceans that is greater than all the surface water combined, right? So now they're telling us that there's water underneath the oceans, that there's a massive ocean underneath the See, when everybody figures out they've been lied to, they start walking back their narrative. So I want you to look at all of the nuclear test footage when they were blowing up these popsicle stick models and telling everybody that these were, these devices. And And then I want you to look up Einstein sticking his tongue out at everybody and writing all his equations all over the place like he's some genius when he was a fraud. By the way, he was a Christ-denying scum all the way to the grave, folks. He denied God and Jesus Christ his whole life. So, you know, I mean, folks, do you really believe they have these things? Do you really believe it? Okay, well, I know what I was told and taught, and that is that they had all these nuclear tests that they ran in the Nevada desert. And when you go to Las Vegas, no one has cancer and everybody's out getting a tan, drinking a pina colada and eating a buffet, right? And rolling the dice. If the nuclear bombs were what they claimed and what I was taught in college as a chemistry major, then those places would be uninhabitable for 60,000 years. Are people living in Hiroshima? Are people living in Fukushima? Are people living in Nagasaki? Are people living in Chernobyl? Are dogs and cats and squirrels and wolves and trees and bats flourishing in the exclusion zone of Chernobyl? How is it that something so deadly isn't killing anything in these places? Why does Fukushima, the prefecture around Fukushima, look like a United States biosphere, a United Nations biosphere reserve? Why does it look like a nature preserve, ladies and gentlemen? Why are dogs and cats running around Chernobyl and having babies that have one head, not three heads? Why? Why is it that most of the nuclear bomb footage looks like stick models made out of popsicle sticks and paper mache getting blown in a fan on a microscopic level? Do you really think the Chinese government is going to try a land invasion on the United States when there are 350 million guns in this country? You know, I'm really sick of these turkey neck clowns coming on with the flag and talking about how they've got this military intel, talking about how there's this quote-unquote global threat, this quote-unquote global cabal, right? They use the word global, and there's some turkey neck clown trying to freak you all out to sell you a dehydrated lunch and a gas mask, right? Always trying to work the angles on everybody instead of telling the truth, right? Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. A well-regulated militia, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States cannot be invaded with an armed population. As a matter of fact, the only way that they can take this place over is if they take our guns away. All right? Now, can they fake a nuclear attack? You bet. Because let me tell you something, folks. They can run a firebomb or a hydrogen bomb and make a mushroom cloud out of just about anything. All right? And then they can tell you that the radiation levels are so high and you got to evacuate. And how do you know they're not lying? How will you know they're not? Well, do you have a radiation detector? Okay? Do you have anything that can determine what the background level of naturally occurring isotope decay is? A particle counter? I mean, you know, folks, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you. I see children with a $1,200 cell phone and their parents have, you know, $3,000 laptops, and they don't have anything in their house that can tell them whether some nuclear event has taken place, assuming that it's not some radiological dumping that was done intentionally to give the appearance of a supposed nuclear attack. By and large, people waste all their money on garbage, and they don't think in terms of reality because they live in a world that is a fantasy. Because when you say nuclear weapons and nuclear bombs, people freak out and they go into shock. And when people freak out and go into shock, they can't think, all right? And when that happens, they've got you. Because here's the deal, folks. If you could think rationally, you wouldn't be afraid of a lot of things. But fear is the ultimate weapon, okay? That's what they use on us. Why do you think they use the mind control system of the television and the news media, and they have all these trust colors in the background? All these con job guys got these blue studios, you know, with all of these effects and green screen, and they got the spinning ball on there. You know what I'm talking about. The guy that sounds like he drinks scotch and smokes cigars as they find him with tranny porn on his cell phone, right? Yeah, right. See? Oh, it's all the Chi-Coms and the globalists, right? That's all they talk about. They don't talk about the real threats, folks. And the con job, okay? All right, so the United States right now is in the process of being turned into a communist country, all right? There have been communist influence here for a long time. The educational system is a complete communist operation, okay? And, when I talk about communism, I'm talking about Bolshevism, Leninism, Trotskyites, all those people. Their ideologies are alive and well. And you want to know something? For those of you who want to run your children through the gamut of the so-called higher education system, where they're being taught communism, they're being inculcated with the communist worldview. Okay, and if you understand communism, you know what it is. It's genocide by the government and wealth confiscation by the government for the benefit of those who print the money. It's a consolidation of power and a genocide. Anywhere you have communism, you have abject poverty and total ruthless dictatorial control by the government. And communists cannot take over unless the people have been disarmed. Communists cannot invade a country unless the people have been disarmed. Communists cannot overthrow a nation unless the people have been disarmed. You are not going to fall victim to communism unless you turn your guns in. And don't believe this con job, folks. Don't believe this con job, okay? What's going on right now is the deniers of Jesus Christ, through the use of the media and the control of the media and the control of the movies and the control of the music industry and the control of the publishing and the magazines and the cartoons and even now the video gaming operations, have been trying to make the American people go berserk and crazy and give up all their rights because they're going to be conned into believing that guns are dangerous and too many gun violence events happen. And so we have to take the guns away from everybody. That is nonsense, folks. I want you to take a step back for just a second. And if anybody in the government, anybody in academia, anybody in any of our social backstop networks that had any care or concern over this nation's dealing with weapons and guns, they would ban all of the video games and all of the movies and all of the music that glorify and glamorize and promote and idealize and basically make us idolaters of murder and bloodshed. It is disgusting, okay? The media and the movie industry, everything is shooting and killing and raping and stealing and blowing things up. Look, folks, normal people don't do those things. And they've been trying to make normal people into maniacs for 100 years in Hollywood, okay? And, folks, it's a joke, and it ain't working. And they run these false flags and these fake events, these green screen events to tug on your heartstrings to get you to say, oh, well, I guess it's time. I had a talk with a professional that I've done business with for quite some time, and this guy's petrified and says the government has to do something. And I want to tell you something. The government doesn't have to do anything. The people have to do the following. They've got to shut off the TV and stop believing the lies and go out and buy more stuff to defend themselves. Because let me tell you something. A well-regulated militia The right to keep and bear. I don't know where I left off, but I'm going to repeat this. Over the target. We're back. I'm going to repeat the statement, folks. A well-regulated militia. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The United States and people need to be armed with literally military-style weapons. For what reason? To defend against enemies, a foreign invasion, or even domestic terrorists that are the government themselves or foreign troops that have been brought in here by our government. Okay? The reason why the United States is still technically a free country is because we have the last and the first right of refusal. We get the last word. Okay? So that is why the media has been doing everything it can for 100 years, not to entertain you, but to brainwash you and to make crazy people go off the deep end and abuse the gun privileges that we have. That's why they got everybody on all these meds. That's why everybody's getting depression meds so they can flatline and have no emotions. That's why the military does all kinds of psychological warfare operations and mind control projects. That's why they're studying all this psychobiology. You know, I remember at UCI in 1989, I had graduated with a bachelor's degree in chemistry and bachelor's degree in biological science. It was my senior year in 1989. And at the University of California, Irvine, a company called Hitachi, a Japanese electronics company, had built a building with a bridge to the electrical engineering building at UCI. And Hitachi had exclusive access to the electrical engineering building. And this was about the time that the Pokemon episode in Japan had sent 800 children to the hospital with epileptic seizures. Okay. Let me repeat that, folks. In Japan, there was an episode of Pokemon that sent 800 children to the hospital with epileptic seizures. And, you know, they were working on, psychobiology and electrical engineering, merging the disciplines. And by the way, we weren't allowed to go into the Hitachi building at UCI. I was allowed to go into the electrical engineering library. I was allowed to go into the physical science library. I had to go to these libraries to pull books to do my homework, right? But we couldn't go into the Hitachi building, yet they let this Japanese electronics company that was making televisions have full access to decades of high-level electrical engineering research projects, exclusive access, right? So we know that the mind control systems have, been going for a long time, and the deniers of Jesus Christ, who run all these Bolshevik operations, who print the money, want us dead and want to steal our land. And so what they've used is the printing press called the Federal Reserve to buy everything they want and produce all these Hollywood backdrops and stages and studios to brainwash us, to make us crazy so we can abuse our privileges, so they can take our rights away to defend ourselves. And that is never going to happen. Jesus Christ himself said in the Gospel of Luke, "He who has no sword, let him sell his cloak and buy one." And you know what? Even King James himself didn't have the guts to take that out. I want to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Has your pastor ever read that to you? Have you ever heard a sermon on self-defense from a Christian biblical perspective? And that a sword was a military-style weapon at the time Jesus walked the face of this flat earth? Of course not. They want you waiting for some fake rapture. They want you rolling up your sleeves when they run the face diaper operation and letting them have full access to your bloodstream, and you be in a position where they could take your children away on this bus, take your women away on this bus, and take you away on this train. And then what are you going to have to say to that? Nothing, because all you'll have is a pizza box and a frickin' remote control in your hand if they have their way with you. You'll be in the fetal position with a VR headset on when they shut the power off and they roll the troops. That is not the America that is going to be in place when they try to pull this off. The America that's in place right now is the one that's going to be in place forever. And that is a massive, vast geographical expanse of resource-rich areas occupied and inhabited by pissed-off, rugged individualists that will say hell no and back it up with force if necessary. They've been trying to dose us with the water and emasculate us with this sick, kinky, sex ed perversion curriculum, and all you sick bastards in the educational system that sit back and wax your Teslas and go along with this as you put your pink shirt on and roll into your special parking space. You know who you are. You're the ones who will be held responsible if that day comes, right? We know what's up, folks. We know that they've been going extra hard and long on the corruption and the indoctrination and the attempts to get everybody to go unhinged and use their guns. And the American people, in the name of Jesus Christ, continue to exercise tremendous restraint to preserve and protect the sacred right that has been ordained even by Almighty God to self-defense, ladies and gentlemen. And anybody is a criminal. You know, it's amazing, back during the Certificate of Vaccination ID-19 operation, when they closed down the government under the Public Health Color of Law Authority operation, shut down the restaurants and shut down the libraries and tried to shut down churches. Most churches folded like a cardboard box. And, they were parading around all these masks and these ambulances and these dishwashing gloves and these Polynesian moo-moo outfits with white plastic and painters outfits and everything else. They had everybody freaked out. And yet, Governor Newscomb, this communist Marxist degenerate criminal in Sacramento, California, that's been installed as the governor of this state, who's actually really just somebody who's heading straight to hell, guys. And he is. He's going to burn in hell for what he's doing. But he was, photographed having dinner, rubbing shoulders with people at restaurants, not wearing masks, just like nothing happening, right? Like there was never a so-called pandemic. The governor's just living his life, while everybody's in their room wearing a mask, watching television. The children can't see their friends, And my neighbor who works for the school district is having a drive-through birthday party with masks on my street, right? All this stuff's going on, right? And the governor himself, who's making all these edicts and mandates, doesn't wear a mask and is, sitting around with 20 people at a table having dinner and drinks like nothing's going on, right? And these are the same people that want to take your guns away, that have armed security covering their home and their office and their limousine, and they have an entourage of armed, literal assassins surrounding them all the time. But they want you to turn in your guns. They don't want you to be able to defend yourself. They want you to wear a mask and take a vaccine and not hang out with anybody while they go out to restaurants and not wear a mask and sit shoulder to shoulder and act like nothing's going on. You see, that's communism, folks. They want us back on the plantation. I'm sorry, but either I got lied to when I was a young boy and I read these documents that talk about our rights, and then I remember when I was in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and then I remember when I was young and I was pledging allegiance, and all these things I was taught at a young age. I mean, are they all lies? Is it all a fraud? Is it really a joke? I mean, do we not have any rights? Of course we have rights. Now, I know your name's in all capital letters, and at birth, your natural identity is killed and replaced with a fictitious business entity in all capital letters, and, you know, the Uniform Commercial Code allegedly takes precedent and control, and you enter into all these contracts, and that's how they get you. I get all that. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, the pen is not mightier than the sword, ladies and gentlemen, and that's probably the biggest lie of all. You know, they tell us that the pen is mightier than the sword. No, it's not. That's what they want you to think. Okay? Because with that ideology, they get to use the pen. And they don't have to use the sword. Russia is not going to nuke the United States, folks. The United States will be imploded by Bolshevik, Marxist techniques. They will blow up the food processing plants. They will destroy systematically the infrastructure. They will collapse the economy and force us into a situation of starvation. And once they get us to that point, they will try to disarm us. Now, it's kind of hard to starve the American people to death when there's so much land and there's so much food everywhere. Okay? So one of the things they do is they make us eat too much, so we all die and take their drugs, right? No! Not gonna happen, ladies and gentlemen. All right? So, you know, this scam they're trying to pull, folks, it's not gonna work. They got a lot of scams going. Don't fall for it. Don't be afraid of nuclear weapons. Be afraid of the stores having no food in them. Go out and buy food. Don't be afraid of, you know, some communist invasion. Go out and buy guns and ammunition and get ready to fight for your homeland. You know, what is this? Why do we think everybody has to do everything for us? Oh, well, we pay taxes so the military is going to protect us. No, they're not. Heck, half the military is not even in the country right now. And some of the troops that are here aren't even from this country. That should concern you. And your local police department's getting military equipment. Should that concern you? Heck yeah. Oh, but you go to church on Sunday and they say, well, Jesus is coming back next week and we're not going to be here. Oh, by the way, there's an app on your screen and you can donate, right? I mean, come on, folks. If Jesus was coming back next week, why the heck do they want your money? Why don't they just give it all away? And say, here's $1,000, say the sinner's prayer, and let's all get saved and be happy. I mean, if these churches really believe half the stuff they taught you, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. Folks, I need you to stop listening to these turkey neck clowns with the flag and supposedly having connections to the supposed military intel. Folks, the military is run by high-level Masons, okay? And the government is run by high-level Masons. And basically, these Masons are working for the deniers of Jesus Christ and practicing their religion in the form that is acceptable based on their perceived ethnicity, but they all serve those that print the money out of thin air. We know what the scam and the plan is, folks, but they got a little bit of a problem, and that is there's a big problem with the American people saying, no way, Jose, right? So don't be afraid of some nuclear attack from some weapon that doesn't exist, okay? What they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were firebombs, folks, okay? If the radiation, I was taught and I studied and look, the periodic table of the elements and the radioisotopes, the half-lives, the decays, the atomic number, the mass number, the molecular weight, all these things, the reactivity, you know, the different categories, the alkali earth, rare earth, the inorganic, and the metals, and, you know, all halides, all these different folks. I was taught that this stuff had a half-life of 60,000 years, and the plutonium was one of the deadliest substances known to man. And yet there's people living in Fukushima, there's people living in Hiroshima, there's people living in Nagasaki, there's people living in Las Vegas, there's people living in New Mexico. For crying out loud, folks, will you wake up? Man, they tell you that, you know, you can spin a tennis ball and it can hold the ocean, and yet the mosquito can take off. The gravity's so strong it holds the ocean, but it can't hold the mosquito. Are you kidding me? Why am I lying? Why am I lying? No, I'm not lying, folks. I'm telling you the truth. I'm raising my voice because it's so insanely stupid. They give you this book when you're in kindergarten, and it shows these roly-poly imprints on some clay, and they tell you it's a trilobite from 700 million years ago, okay? And then they tell you that they show you these rocks, and they tell you about this lightning bolt that hit some, flask full of gases that turned into a bacteria, and then this bacteria turned into a salamander, and this salamander evolved into an eagle, and this eagle, turned into a bear, and this bear turned into a monkey, and then this monkey turned into you, but they don't have the link for that, so they forgot the link somewhere. Seriously, folks? Seriously. I had a chair my buddy brought home, and it was a nice oak chair that someone threw out, so I broke it up and used it for firewood, because oak is the best firewood on the face of the earth, hands down, bar none. Oak is the best firewood. Burns clean and hot, baby, right? Well, the chair had some screws and some brackets on it. I threw them in the fire pit. Well, in the morning, I take a big magnet and pull out all the screws and the metallic parts, so when I dump the ashes into my composter, I don't poke my hand with things. But this morning, I didn't empty the ashes, and I had left these screws and ash in the fire pit for several days now, and I'm waiting for the screws and those brackets to turn into a Cessna so I can fly to Tahiti with my wife next week. You see, I figured that, based on what I was taught, that if you just let ashes sit in there and keep lighting fires every night, that the screws and the brackets will turn into titanium and other metallic alloys that will self-assemble into a precision aircraft, and even the hydrocarbons will self-assemble out of the cellulose fiber and the potash in the repository of the combustion products, will give me enough fuel to fly to Bimini and get back for lunch by noontime tomorrow with my wife. You see absolute nonsense of what they tell us, folks. I mean, you yank one wire off of your ignition system under your hood, and that gigantic car ain't going to work. So everything they teach you is a joke. And by the time they fill your head full of all these lies and your head spinning, and by the time you're hypersexualized in high school with all the social media and the curriculum, and you've had all of this British literature engineered and designed by Tavistock to make you either kill yourself or have sex with your cousin, then you head straight for what? For the music and the communist colleges and all of the high-level indoctrination into movies and all these other things. And then they throw you into the Communist Manifesto and all of this moral relativism and anthropology and sociology and ecology. And before you know it, you think the world's coming to an end because you live in a 6x8 apartment with a VR headset on, and you see all these pictures of smokestacks and bulldozers moving around piles of garbage and seagulls flying around pooping all over everything, when in fact 95% of the United States is rural open space, right? Folks, don't be afraid of these con men that are trying to freak you out. Be logical and rational. Don't let them take you alive, and don't starve to death. Those are pretty simple problems to solve, okay? And why do I say these things? I'll tell you why, folks. Because in the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of his Holy Spirit, in the name of his Almighty Father, in the name of his sinless shed blood, I come to you with the fact that God spent more time forming you in your mother's womb than he spent creating the heavens and the earth, folks. 9 months in your mother's womb and 6 days to make the land, the sea, and everything in it, and the heavens above. And if you don't think your life is important on this earth, if you don't think your life matters here, if you think it's okay to have you extinguished like a candle in the wind, then I got news for you, folks. Your theology is in the trash can. Okay? You are fearfully and wonderfully made, knitted together in your mother's womb, and he has known you before he laid the foundations of the earth. And don't think for a second that your life doesn't matter, your body doesn't matter, our physical existence doesn't matter. Why do you think he went through all this trouble to make this place, and all the animals and the plants and the foods and the flowers and the fruits and the vegetables and all of the things, the sun, the moon, the stars, the weather, the lightning, the rain, the wind, the earth, the wind, the fire, all these things? Why did he go through all this trouble if none of it matters? You need to fire these circus clowns that call themselves a pastor, that make you think like you're so heavenly minded, you're no earthly good, and let all these evil people control everything. No! No! Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone, right? You're not going to be another brick in the wall. You're not some swine chained to a chain gang headed for a slaughterhouse. The educational system is a criminal operation. So is organized religion, folks. All we have is the insurrectionist, revolutionary Son of God, the sinless Son of God that led us to himself, who draws everyone to himself, and he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but through him. He said it, not me. Stop being afraid to die. Stop being afraid of what people think. Stop being afraid of things that aren't a threat, and start looking at how you don't need to be afraid if you'll just simply prepare. And don't be one of these moronic, myopic, cowardly, bootlicking government sycophant that waxes your Tesla and turns their back on the children and our nation in exchange for their paltry paycheck, so they can sit home and drink Diet Coke and watch the ball game all summer like the people I know. Teaching all these lies, this fake history, this fake science, these ridiculous, mind-bending, stupid Common Core equations and all this worthless theoretical crap that makes absolutely no sense. When you get out of this educational system, you can't even change a freaking tire on a car, right? For crying out loud, I was taking overhead valve engines apart without a manual when I was in high school. Why? Because I had to get to, when I graduated from high school, I had to get to college and my car was in pieces. And we were flat broke and I didn't have any money. I didn't have any other way. Didn't have Uber back then. I had to make that Datsun pickup run. And I remember I did a valve job on the thing and a timing chain. I took the thing apart and put it back together. It took me a week and a half or so. And then I put the timing chain on and the timing was 180 degrees off. And then I had no compression. It's good thing I didn't kiss all the valves. I had to redo it. Folks, we need to know how to fix things and prepare and provide for family members and ourselves and defend ourselves. Because guess what? Has it occurred to you right now that they're coming? They're telling you what they're doing. They're doing everything they can to convince you to turn in your guns. They want you off the land, into the compact cities. They want you into a cashless society. They want you eating bugs and plant-based foods, and they're putting up all these towers everywhere, and they've got, 500 vaccines in development, and they've got 75 required for school entry by 18. And you're sitting there worrying about when the next Apple iPhone's coming out. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this broadcast right now because we went long on this, okay? And I'm probably going to get cut off. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, folks, and you need to wake up, all right? And the reason I do this is not because I like to hear myself talk. It's because I don't want the ship to sink that I'm riding on with all the rest of you. And the biggest threat are the moronic imbeciles that think this place is going to continue as it has if they just sit there and watch TV and push buttons on their Uber Eats app and everything else. Folks, Life is not that simple. And freedom comes with a price. It comes at a price, and there's a price we pay for freedom. And sometimes it costs you your life. Okay? And I'm not talking about going and dying in the sand for the deniers of Jesus Christ in the Middle East in a war that we don't belong in. I'm talking about defending what these people like to call the homeland, which I like to call my country. My country. Remember, my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Remember that song you used to sing in grade school? It still is a land of liberty, folks. Why? Because we have a security force that defends and guarantees it. And it's called what? A well-regulated militia. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need to be worrying about Russia or China. Communism is a wind-up toy political system that is created by and controlled by the deniers of Jesus Christ to protect the central banking system that has given themselves, through dictatorial powers, through bloodshed, blunt force trauma, starvation, and mass murder, the ability to control the issuance of currency by printing money out of thin air and making sure that they monopolize that process so that they are the only ones that can take reams of paper and turn it into enough currency to literally take a $5 ream of paper from Staples and build the Bellagio on Las Vegas Boulevard for billions of dollars. And that's what they do. And everything that is in place right now that you think is something you need to be a part of, that you need to send your children to go through and understand and master, is all designed to keep that operation going as they murder everybody. You don't think they're murdering everybody right now? You know how many people have died? Hundreds of millions of people have been murdered by their government in the 20th century, folks. You want me to go down the list of all these murderers? I don't need to, folks. And it wasn't just 6 million Jews that got murdered, folks. The Bolsheviks murdered at least 40 to 100 million Christians in Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution. The Armenians know about the Holodomor Holocaust massacre, where they literally starved all these people to death. Mao Zedong in China marched these people to their death. Millions, tens and hundreds of millions of people have been murdered. Khmer Rouge, Idi Amin, Pol Pot, Ho Chi Minh, Lenin, Stalin. All you hear about is Hitler, folks. There's a lot more people involved in murdering everybody than the one who gets center stage. Okay? And they've got plans to do that here. But they can't do it when we got, green pastures and cows roaming around in fields full of amber waves of grain, folks. United States is the last bastion of freedom in the world. And you cannot let it go without a fight. And in the name of Jesus Christ, you need to stand your ground. What does the Bible say in Ephesians about the armor of God? After you've put on the armor of God, it says, above all stand, right? Above all stand, and be in prayer at the same time. Ain't no atheist in a foxhole, folks. And don't believe history, because it's his story. Okay? All the history you've been taught's a lie, folks. It's all a lie. All the accounts of World War II, World War I, the reasons we fought these wars, it's all lies. Let me tell you why we fought these wars, folks. To genocide all of the human cattle so that the chosen can print the money and take the world over. And guess what? Because they served their father, the devil, who was a liar and a murderer, share in his fate, which is eternal damnation and the lake of fire. Okay? Get right with God. Jesus saves. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another broadcast of Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer. PO Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. Drop me a line. Send me a postcard. Take care, folks. Keep me in prayer. Stay strong. Download this video. Upload this video. Don't monetize this video. Get the word out. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. In Jesus' name we go.